Did you read this article from the opinion page of The Hindu of 25th of June? Or you just have like skipped it or ignored it just because you found this article to be very lengthy and very like difficult to understand? So even if you have ignored it, missed it, no need to worry. This session is being provided so that articles like this, which are actually very important and actually loaded with gems and important information. So purpose is to simplify such articles for your convenience. So as the heading suggests, this article pertains to low fertility in India, and it gives actually certain suggestions, identifies certain issues related to low fertility scenario in India. Before we proceed analyzing this article, there is a very beautiful line written over here. So it says that India has crossed into low fertility as a nation, but not as one demographic economy. Very beautiful statement it is. If you have identified the beauty of this statement, then you are certainly on a very right track, but you have just could not figure it out what this value loaded information actually value loaded statement actually means. Then you need to actually work out something. So what could be the meaning of this statement? First and foremost is India has crossed into low fertility. India has crossed into low fertility means now India's fertility rate is quite on lower side. But this crossing into lower fertility has happened as a nation and not as one demographic economy. So basically there are two concepts being highlighted over in this statement. First one is India has low fertility and as a nation, but not as one demographic country. Now to understand it, it is very important that you understand the meaning of low fertility, and before that the meaning of fertility. What does the word fertility actually mean in terms of demographic concepts? Very easy, very simple language if you want to take, is that fertility is the ability or willingness of any woman to bear a child or to give birth to children. So that is called fertility. Means if there is a woman and if she is able to bear children, and how many children she can bear, that is also important. But if she is able to bear children, if she is willing to bear children, means she has some sort of fertility going on with her. Now fertility as a raw concept, raw term does not signify much. But if you understand the concept of total fertility rate, then that becomes important. TFR. This TFR becomes important when we are analyzing the demography of a country. Demography means like population dynamics with respect to birth rate, death rate, migration. So everything is covered under demography, and total fertility rate is one of the tools to measure the demographic dynamics, demographic advancements or demographic changes. What does this TFR mean? Simple. TFR is the number of children born per woman. So suppose there are, and this is an average number. Why this is important? Let me illustrate you. Suppose there are 10 women in a state or in a country. Suppose there are 10 women. One woman has 3 children, one has 4, one has 1, one has 0. What would be the average? Average would be 8 by 4 is equal to 2. That is 2 children per woman is the average. When we try to figure it out, this average in terms of the entire country, entire nation, then we come to the concept of TFR. So whatever the TFR of a country will be, that will be based on, that will be decided on the basis of the average number of children that can be born by the women of that particular country. And in India, this TFR is basically decided by something called Sample Registration System, SRS. This SRS carries some sort of survey. Survey means it surveys certain sample of people, not the entire country, because surveying the whole country will not be that possible. So it surveys a chunk of people, a sample of people, and based on that survey it comes out with some factual data that okay, the women are having this much of TFR, total fertility rate. So as per the SRS system, India has a total fertility rate of 1.9. Now you may ask, it is about number of children being born, then how it could be 0.9? Very genuine query you have. So children won't be born in 0.9, but because this is an average, then obviously it is the mathematical notation has to be like that. You can understand this way that the India's TFR currently is less than 2. Right? Less than 2 is India's TFR. Now one more related concept with respect to TFR is the replacement level. What does this replacement level mean? To understand it in simple terms, consider that there are parents. One is a father, the other is a mother. So actually two people, a couple. They are making a pair of parents. If the parents are able to give birth to 2 children, right? So the family has earlier had 2 people, they gave birth to 2 people. So these two, in later times, these two actually are considered as a replacement of the older generation. So replacement level has been set at 2.1. Again, it is 2.1, that does 0.1 children cannot happen. So replacement level of fertility rate is called to be greater than 2. So if a family, if the women of the country are able to produce more than 2 children, that is called replacement level. Means the new generation can actually replace the old generation. That is the whole concept of this the term replacement. I have given just you a brief idea about the very basic concept that this article has been highlighting, and these have actually been defined over here. Actual concern of this article actually starts after this. What is that? Is that this article says, not only this article, this is actually a reality, that India has reached TFR of less than replacement level. Right? It is 1.9. But this is not uniform throughout the country. This is not uniform. There are places, there are states, for example Kerala, for example Tamil Nadu, for example Delhi, or you can say other states, developed states, southern states, they have the TFR of much lower than 1. Even lower than 1.9. For example, some states have TFR of 1.3, some states have TFR of 1.6. But basically all these industrialized and developed nations have TFR much below the national average of 1.9. On the other hand, there are states like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, they have TFR actually more than the national average. Some have 2.6, some have 2.9. Means the TFR of certain northern states are actually higher than the replacement rate, and the TFR of certain southern states is actually lower than the replacement rate. That is why this statement is all about India has crossed into low fertility. That is true. Our fertility rate has declined, very much true. But this fertility rate has declined as a nation. Means if we are considering the entire national average, then only we are finding it that the fertility rate has declined, but not as one demographic economy. Means if we consider the demographic or population dynamics as the entire economy, then it won't be decent, it won't be correct to say that we have crossed into low fertility. Because when we look into the population dynamics, demographic dynamics with respect to birth rate, death rate and other factors, we easily identify that certain states have lower fertility rate, other states have higher fertility rate. So that is a very beautiful statement, and such statements can actually be given you in your main examination, and UPSC will ask you to elaborate, will ask you to critically examine or analyze whatever UPSC may feel like. So this is a very basic concept that you should understand. This has been elaborated over here. Now the actual issue or actual theme of this article starts from over here. What is this? Is that this article is saying that okay, India has low fertility rate, that's true, and there is disparity as well. When it says not as one demographic economy, so that actually talks about disparity. The disparity is this. So there is certainly a disparity. Now this article, the theme of this article is to highlight the major issues or major challenges that are actually connected to this disparity. The first one is it compares India's fertility rate with other nations, particularly the developed ones. For example, Western Europe, and also you can take in Asia, you can take the example of Japan. What has happened in these countries is that they have already reached the TFR of below replacement level. They have already reached their total fertility rate of below replacement level. And India is also reaching as a national, with respect to national average. But there is a difference between these countries and India. What is the major difference? These countries and India is that these countries have actually got industrialized, got developed, had developed good institutions in terms of health, in terms of education, health infrastructure, education infrastructure, quality of education, living lifestyle, and also per capita income, social sector, like insurance. These things have already got very developed, very advanced, very balanced in such countries. And when this happened, then they are moving to TFR of low replacement level. But this is not the case with India. India is still not well industrialized. India is still a developing country, not a developed country. Institutions related to health and education are still not up to the mark in India. Lifestyle is still very meager. Per capita income is still low. And social sector investments by the government in terms of insurance and pension is still on the lower side. So this article says that though India is reaching the replacement level of TFR, when compared to the countries that have already achieved that, the situation is very stark for India. Situation is very bleak for India. Situation is very scary for India. Because if you don't have a proper per capita income, then how the old age people will be able to survive properly? If you don't have social sector initiatives, how the old age people will survive? Because when we studied over here about replacement, when less number of children are getting born, then the working people will be fewer in number. and less number will be people will be required to support more number of dependent people. So earning, people who are earning versus people who are dependent. If the population growth is declining, if less number of people are coming into the labor force, then that means the dependent number of people will be increasing, and that will be putting some more burden on this working class. And this particularly becomes scary when we find out that India's per capita income is still low, India's social sector initiatives are still very low, lifestyle is not that good, we don't have decent health and infrastructure, and we certainly have decent jobs, decent formal jobs. So this is something very important issue that is being highlighted in this article, and it further says that we have, because of this disparity in terms of industrialization, our per capita income is low, our direct tax base is low, that is also low, our labor market base is also low, that means we are not able to generate enough formal employment. That brings us to our next issue, that is formal employment. The problem with India is that majority of the population is either unemployed or they are having employment in informal sector. And as the name suggests, if we have informal sector employment, that means you won't be getting social security benefits, we won't be getting retirement benefits, and if such people become old, or if such people get retired, then it will be very difficult for them to sustain themselves. So this is a very important another heading, another issue that has been highlighted over here. Then it says that what is the role of the government is that when it comes to social sector initiatives, particularly pensions or insurance that the government shall provide, when we look into it, actually the schemes have two issues. The first issue is about how much amount being provided. So basically amount broadly ranges from 400 to 1000 rupees per month per individual. That is very low in terms of present day challenges. The second one is India's government sponsored pension schemes are actually contribution based. For example, schemes like Atal Pension Yojana, they are contribution based, means not only the government will be contributing, but also the insured person has to contribute to the pension to earn the pension in their old age. And here comes the challenge, because people don't have decent income. How can we expect them to contribute to the pension schemes? So this is also a very good issue being highlighted over here, and it ultimately says that because of this, elderly are prone to getting dependent, and it will be very hard for them to survive in their old age. Now, a very decent, you can say very good issue that is being highlighted, actually very unique issue is being highlighted, is it is connecting the changing family norms, urbanization, changing family norms, urbanization, migration, family norms. These things are being connected to this old age related stuff that is called fertility. So what it is this? Is that because of the urbanization and because of the women empowerment also you considered, what is happening is that these days, because of urbanization, people are joint family system that used to be the quality of Indian families is actually breaking up, and old age people are staying in their homes and the children are migrating to cities for better work opportunities. And when they are migrating to cities, there is no one left back home to take care of their parents. This is, you can connect it with the urbanization, you can connect it with the new services sector, you can connect it with the migration, and this is like changing family norms. And because of this, women empowerment is also there. Now it is very common to find out that women are not ready to work, to get involved in household chores, because they are also willing and ready to, they also want to earn outside. This has not been the case a couple of decades earlier. Even if you take 20 or 25 years ago, then this was not the case. But today, because of women empowerment, women are also trying or wishing to have their own jobs, to become independent. And because of this, there is very few people to take care of old age people back home. And this is what it says, that children's migration improves monetary resources, it worsens loneliness and health vulnerability. Very beautiful line, very beautiful terms are written over here, are that it, though when children are migrating, though there are improvement in terms of monetary resources, but it worsens the loneliness and creates health vulnerability of the old age people. So a very beautiful, very decent line. So this kind of analytical perspectives you must be having while reading the newspapers. Now we'll move to another, what it further says. Here it again talks about pension floor, and it says that whatever pension we are providing, like we discussed over here, that they are providing, government is providing hardly 400 to 1000 rupees. In some states it may also go to 2000, but still that amount is very lower. So the suggestion being given over here is that such pension should be inflation indexed. Means such pension amounts should increase based on the changing inflation. So this is one of the suggestions that are being given over here. It says inflation indexed. So this kind of way forward, you can say, when a question appears, or if you are like going to write an essay on this topic, if you are going to give an example on this topic, related to this topic, like old age people, low fertility, and what are the challenges being faced by old age people, then you can talk about, as a way forward, you can talk about that the pension schemes should provide pension as with inflation indexed schemes. Then it comes the very important issue that is related to health. We don't have decent health infrastructure in India, that is very much true. But what has happened, that we have earlier in past, we have been able to focus on, for example, schemes like institutional deliveries or polio eradication, and India has achieved very good achievement in that direction. So this article highlights that now the time is to focus on geriatric care as well. We should have decent number of hospitals, we should have decent number of doctors, hospitals, nurses, and also there has to be like proper empathy, because if today your poor people are visiting some hospitals, they are not being taken good care of. So the article actually highlights that on health institutions front as well, we need to work out if we actually want to face or win over this low fertility issue in the near or longer term. This article also connects an issue, brings out an issue related to polity, you can say. So the beauty is different dimensions, different subjects are being connected to this low fertility thing. How polity? It connects polity and calls about federal system, federal scheme. What is the federal scheme? It is like states, like suppose if there are states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala or Delhi, the developed ones, or Maharashtra, if their fertility rate is declining, so obviously such states will need workforce or people to sustain their economy, who will be working in those states. And how can this workforce be supplied? This workforce can be supplied from the states like Bihar, UP, MP, because these have high fertility rate. So these people can provide youngsters or working age people who can actually work in the states having declining fertility rate. Compare it with the other countries as well. You must be able to understand, you shall understand that countries like Western Europe and Japan are actually facing a declining population, and they are actually seeking youthful population from countries like India to support their economy. The same may translate in India as well, that okay, the states, developed states having low fertility rate, they shall also encourage people from the other states. But for that, those people should be skilled, educated properly as per the need, and also there should not be discrimination. There should not be discrimination. What happens these days is that migrants are abused, they are discriminated, they are not treated fairly, they are not given respect. So this article says that if in such a case the younger population is being provided by the northern states or the states having high fertility rate, then it is the duty of the receiving states to provide them and do not consider them as temporary labor but as citizens who help sustain their economies. So this is also a very important aspect. It further says that such labor force should have their entitlements move with them. For example, you take the example of one nation, one ration card scheme. So if some person is actually any resident of Bihar and he has a ration card in Bihar, and if that person migrates to Tamil Nadu, then that person should be able to access the benefits of his ration cards of Bihar from the Tamil Nadu government as well, or as per the local laws of the Tamil Nadu government. So this kind of portability is very important. Entitlements should also move. It is not that people are moving away to their different states for work purposes, for income, and they are getting cut off from their home state. So this is also a very important suggestion provided in this article. So in this article, in very much detail, we understood a very good statement. Its meaning that India's low fertility rate is declining for sure as a nation, but not as one demographic economy. One more very good statement is written at the end, is that India is entering mass aging before completing the transitions that made aging manageable elsewhere. We just discussed the same thing at the beginning of this session. So what would you write if UPSC gives a question based on this statement? Do share your answer.